Breaking internal memo reveals the Trump administration plans to cut over 80,000 workers from the VA, guys. That is going to devastate rural America. That is 20% of the VA's workforce. And if you're sitting here and you're thinking, oh, I don't care, they voted for Donald Trump, shame on you, because this is going to have insane reverberations across all people. Okay. And one of the things that I'll say, even if you're just a totally self-interested lefty and you have no connection to the VA and you don't understand or empathize with how important and vital it is to taking care of people all across rural America, and also the fact that we talked about how Social Security is a debt owed. I believe we have a debt owed to the people that we said, hey, go across the country and fucking fight and die and risk your life, and we're going to give you a few things to try and make your life better when you get back. Yeah, we should give them those things. I think we should give everybody access to healthcare. So I'm certainly not going to complain when the government gives it to some people, right? And I think that it's actually one of the best arguments that we have for the fact that the government can provide people with Medicare for all. If you look around, particularly like Southern Johnson County, where Gavin and I record from, is like an example that I have in my brain. I was more saying that to Gavin than anywhere else. But like, if you go to like South Metro, right where it starts to get a little bit more rural, they've built a lot of VA facilities out there over the years, and they're really nice. And I have a lot of people in my family that rely on the VA for healthcare. And it's actually a good service, and it opens people's minds up, and it's a good point of contact for people to remember what the government can do for them when it actually chooses to. And I think, this is going to devastate a lot of people who, yes, voted for Donald Trump. But I think it underscores how brazen and powerful he's willing to be in his second term, and fearless of his own base, which is the exact opposite of what we've been hearing from people like Cenk Uygur.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely insane. I think it's crazy that we don't hear more, resistance from the Democrats to some of these cuts, because it's just like, yeah, there's going to be a backlash to this at some point once these services truly stop working, which they will. They're already underfunded. They're already, not as easy to work with as most people would like them to be. But further defunding them, further, taking workers away is only going to make people really pissed off when they actually have to deal with this bureaucracy face to face, which is the reality, specifically for a lot of old people. And this is something that's relevant for Social Security too. They're not dealing with all this online bullshit with chatbots and stuff. No, they want to go to the office in their local community, again, whether that's the Social Security office or the VA office, and talk to a human being if they have an issue with their services, if they have an issue with their benefits, whatever. And when you take that away, and when you make these systems basically impossible to work with, yeah, it definitely is going to really outrage and enrage a lot of the folks that genuinely rely on these services the most. And then, of course, that's going to make them further dependent on their family members and other people in their life. And that'll create a strain. So it'll have a ripple effect that I genuinely think will create a big backlash against these politics of austerity. Again, as people are like, oh, shit, now I have to pay money out of my paycheck to support my parents or my grandparents because they can no longer rely on these services and benefits, which they previously were dependent on.
100%. And last thing that I think is really horrifying, that I think very much underscores the fact that we are going down a fascist road. Shout out to Ryan Grimm for covering this at Dropsite. Today at 4 p.m., the U.S. Senate votes to remove a rule that bans debanking, a practice where banks, financial institution, payment processors, and even certain services in the digital finance sector, like cryptocurrency platforms, deny services to clients based on political, reputational, or ideological grounds. 100% this is going to be weaponized by Donald Trump to give advantages to his friends and to reprimand people who oppose him politically. And the same thing goes for all of his friends, right? This is crony capitalism at its absolute worst, right? And yeah, some people in mainstream media, they might point out, well, we actually should be able to do debanking. That's how Kanye West is going to get kicked off of all of his banks. Then he'll be poor again, right? Like, you can always find an example of somebody who deserves the worst punishment in the world. But the reason we had this rule in place, right, is the fact that you cannot allow the government, and you can't allow people who are friendly to the president to manipulate banks, to financially pressure your political enemies into behaving a certain way, right? We have to have rules and regulations and protections that prohibit this kind of insane prejudice. And what's going to happen, guys, is it's not going to be the white supremacists that get debanked. It's going to be anybody who challenges cryptocurrency regulation. It's going to be anybody that tries to get Trump from subsidizing Bitcoin and the Javier Milei currency and the Trump coin and all that kind of stuff. He's going to make it so hard for those people to find banking that they're just going to roll over.
Yep, 100%. 100%. With that said, Zach, I would like to take a look at this moment from last night's State of the Union because Jank had some words on the subject in his town hall with Dr. Phil that we teased yesterday and somehow was even more embarrassing than I think either of us could have imagined or that we predicted. But again, just for a little bit of context, in case anyone was not watching last night, I'm sure 95% of you guys have seen this by now. But Representative Al Green from Texas actually proved to be one of the few Democrats in the Congress with an actual spine, with the ability to actually, stand up literally and call out literally Donald Trump and his administration last night during this fascist propagandistic display. So, there's been some debate. Some people don't even think this was enough. They think even this was performative. But I would still say that out of everyone there, at least Al Green understood the assignment. And what I liked about this is not just the performative nature of the interruption, but I could actually genuinely tell, listening to and looking at Donald Trump in the minutes following this interruption, I could genuinely tell that Trump himself seemed a little bit shaken, right? He was a little bit knocked off of his kilter. It kind of fucked up his confidence. It kind of seemed to make him a little bit nervous, right? And that's the best thing you possibly can do if you're one of these people here, right? This guy's trying to give this 90-minute long spiel of propaganda and lies. The best thing you can do is at least try to knock him down a peg and make him a little bit pissed off, agitated, nervous, whatever, right? So in that way, I do think it was an effective protest, but let's take a look unless you have any words, Zach.
Oh, yeah. The only thing that I would add is that that's exactly what you're supposed to do. If you're going to show up at all, what you have to do is remind Donald Trump that he is speaking towards a group of elected officials and not having the campaign rally, right? What does he do at his campaign rallies? He insulates himself to the T. Everybody around him, everybody that's allowed into the rally, he'll turn his own base against anybody who tries to antagonize him in the rally. And what this gentleman here did was say, fuck you. I am my own man. I'm a representative from Texas, and I'm going to force you to acknowledge me. I'm going to look you in the eye. I'm not going to waver, and you're going to have your security team run me out. And if every single Democrat representative had done that, he wouldn't have been able to do PR. It would have been effective resistance. Wearing pink is not resistance. This is the baseline of what you're supposed to do. So I understand people who are like, hey, man, what the fuck? Like, I want to see even more than that. The bare minimum of what you need to be doing is what Al Green did right here, right? He has a great name. He had quite a legacy to live up to with a name like Al Green, and he was like, I am not going to roll over for Donald Trump. He's an old man with a cane, and he made him escort him out. And I think that is, again, the bare minimum of what should be done.
Totally. So yeah, here he is.
Members continue to engage in willful and concerted disruption of proper decorum. The chair now directs the sergeant at arms to restore order. Remove this gentleman from the chamber.
And apparently he was saying you do not have the mandate to cut Medicaid, which, again, it's a shame that people weren't actually able to hear him say that live, but at least it gave him the opportunity later to explain on TV when asked in an interview.
Yeah. And also just underscores the cowardice of Donald Trump, right? You mentioned that he's visibly shaken, even though he has a cadre of goons to go deal with this problem for him as he barks from a podium, right? And a bunch of people to clap to, shore up his very flimsy confidence. Pretty pathetic.
Yep, 100%. It's completely pathetic. He's such a thin-skinned, petty bitch piece of shit. There was another part of the speech, I'm sure you saw it too, Zach, where he literally scolded the Democrats in the room. He's like, this side of the room will never stand up. It's disgraceful. It's disgraceful. I could have been the best president in American history. I could have done everything, and they still would never stand up. It's a disgrace. So he's such a thin-skinned piece of shit. Again, you literally won. You have the House and the Senate. It's not like Democrats sitting down is something unique to this administration, right? The Republicans do it when a Democrat is president. The Democrats do it when a Republican is president, right? They always kind of engage in this performative, like, I'm going to sit here and pout while the president speaks. Like, that's what the opposition does. It's not specific to Donald Trump. It's just this petty, narcissistic bullshit from Donald Trump.
Look out the door if you hear an ambulance. The Vanguard will be there, sir. The Vanguard will be there, sir. The Vanguard will be there, sir. The Vanguard will be there. Be there.